بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So inshallah, we're going to continue with a brief introduction to some of the dala'il and some of the evidences mentioned that the fuqaha use. The primary ones are the Quran and Sunnah, but sometimes these are used as peripheral or secondary evidences. Okay? So what do we have? Rulings of the companion. Now what's the ruling of a companion? When a saying of the companion is also called a ruling of the companion. It's also called qawlu sahabi, the statement of a companion, and it is also known as hadithun maqtu'un, and it's also known as atharun. So these two words, athar, is called the plural of athar is atharun. The plural of athar is athar. So you have here, is that what you have here? You will have atharus sahaba. Oh, what's happening here? Is it not working? No, it's not. Yeah, so it's sorting out a bit. So you have here atharus sahaba. Okay, so atharus sahaba is a statement of the companion, and it's also called hadithul maqtu. So we do that later on in usul hadith. But for now, the qawlu sahabi. So what is the position of qawlu sahabi? So you have to remember, before even going to this, you have to remember that the companions were the first people to hear the wahi from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not only that, they witnessed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his life, his salah, his zakah, his hajj, his interactions, his dealings. They witnessed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then they understood. The Prophet taught them. The Prophet trained them. They're the first, so they have a much better understanding of the religion than anybody could possibly have. And furthermore, the more time a companion spent with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the better their understanding and the more comprehensive their understanding would be of a particular masla. Do you understand? It's not possible that I could come in the year 1400, and say, oh, I have a hadith which Abu Bakr radiallahu didn't have, so therefore Abu Bakr radiallahu, his judgment was wrong and my judgment is right. That is ludicrous. Yes? Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he would have known, and the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, they would have known what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in most things, what he would have done or what his methodology would have been. So therefore, in certain cases, when a Sahabi says something, obviously it's not all cases, and it's not all cases binary, but if you look at it here, when a Sahaba collectively or individually say something, it has a status in Islam. Okay? So let's look at this, let's analyze it. We have qawlu sahabi. Okay? If all of the Sahaba, what do we have? If all of the Sahaba, they unanimously agree upon something, that's really an ijma, isn't it? No? If all the Sahaba agree on something, that's an ijma. So it's a qawlu sahabi, and all the Sahaba, and all of them, for example, they all agreed upon the Khilafah of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, his imama. They all agreed upon collecting the Quran collectively. They all agreed upon waging war against those who refuse to give the zakah, etc., etc. So we have this is called ijma. So if all the Sahaba agree upon something, it's ijma. So that's obvious in evidence. It's not qawlu sahabi really, it's actually an ijma. Does that make sense? Yeah, everybody follow? If the four khulafa, again, it is very unlikely. I mean, this is like a division where do you even get all these categories or not? For example, the four khulafa. I don't think it's possible. I don't know of any example where the four khulafa, they may have said something and the other Sahaba disagreed with them. So again, this is almost an ijma as well, because it's very unlikely the four khulafa, they all agreed upon something and the other Sahaba differed from them. So when the four companions, the four khulafa, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, radiyallahu ta'ala, when they agreed upon something, that's also like an ijma. So then it's also going to be a very high qawlu sahabi. If we have one sahabi, now this is where it starts to get a bit more intricate. If you have one sahabi saying something, and nobody's disagreed with this is also a type of ijma. But you call this ijma, pen's not working. You call it ijma as-sukuti. Sakata yaskutu sukutan. That to remain quiet. It's like, okay, one sahabi said a statement and the others came to know about it. No one disagreed with him. Whether it's one of the khulafa, one of the later companions, and also if you remember this, all the sahabas are not the same. Some sahaba had much more knowledge. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abu Huraira, Aisha, the khulafa, arba'a. So, and then you have some companions who came right at the end of the Prophet's life. They only met the Prophet once. So obviously their understanding, Abu Bakr radiallahu understanding is different. So their statement, Abu Bakr's statement is going to be different, radiallahu ta'ala anhu majma'in. Yeah? So if you have one sahabi, again, it's even to say one sahabi, which sahabi is this? Is this one a peripheral Sahabi came right at the end, not well known, or somebody like Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, somebody like Umar radiallahu anhu, whose statement is it? But if nobody disagreed, it can be like, and nobody disagrees with this statement, then you would say here, well, that this is an acceptable form of proof. After that, we have a statement which must be from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Maybe, for example, when a Sahabi says something, if the Sahabi say there are 8 doors to Jannah, how would he know of this? You guys tell me, how would he know? The Sahabi says there are 4 rakats in the Zuhr. How would he know? Like, is this a qiyas, or is this like he heard from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How would he know about this? He would have heard it from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, he heard it from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, and if like for example, certain things about Jannah, about Jahannam, about hereafter, about fixed amounts of zakat. So certain things, the Sahaba and the companions, they would not know about this unless they had explicitly heard it from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Had they not heard it from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they couldn't have said these things. Do you understand? So even if it's one of these, again, you do this more in Usool hadith, inshallah. So these are also counted like a hadith almost. Do you understand? The last one, which is not an evidence, is when the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, they themselves have a difference. So if you have 2 companions, and they both say different things, one says permissible, one says impermissible, one says halal, one says haram, or one says makruh, one says okay. Now, because the Sahaba themselves differed, it's not really like that means that they were sure themselves. I mean, senior Sahaba or the ulama Sahaba. So if the ulama Sahaba, they differed, then we will say, well, this statement of Sahabi then, it can be taken both ways. Once Imam Shafi'i may say it's Sahabi's opinion, Imam Abu Hanifa said it's Sahabi's opinion. It's not binding on either one because they themselves didn't have a consensus. The first 3 is like an ijma almost, that they all agreed, the major khulafa agreed, one Sahabi said it and nobody disagreed. So those are like kind of like an ijma of different strengths. The strongest is to the far left, all Sahaba, and the weakest is this kind of one. Even if you want to call it ijma, again, it's a very basic book. You know, you just kind of get a rough idea and taste. So this have a lot more nuances and a lot more details. I can't go into everything right now. And the middle one is like a hadith anyways. It's almost like a hadith. And again, there's more details for this. Yes? And this one here, the last one on the far, depending on if you look at this way, on this side, this is not going to be a dalil. Why? Because the Sahaba themselves differed. So you wouldn't disregard both of them. You can consider both of them. That, look, okay, this is what they said. It can be either one of these. It won't be a third or fourth opinion, but it will be one of these 2 opinions, but the Sahaba differed regarding these 2. So this is how you would kind of briefly, a brief overview, oversimplified way of the qawl of Sahabi. And the reason we take the qawl of Sahabi as a proof or as evidence, because the Sahaba, they lived with the Prophet, they knew the Prophet, they understand him, they saw the Quran being revealed, they saw the Prophet's implementation of the Quran, so they are better equipped to understand it. So their understanding of religion is better than our understanding. So primarily after the hadith, we'll go to the Sahaba to see what they understood, what they said, what was their understanding of this masala. Do you understand? You following me? Everybody understand? Okay. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.